Hi, thanks for watching Restitution TV. Um, Today I want to have actually I'm going to have a couple things for you. But I really want to touch base on something that kind of bothered me for a little bit now. And this is just like something that I realized myself. Maybe not just, it's obviously not just me, but probably many people also. And this weird feeling like there's this, just watching everything that's happening in the world. Um, it's almost like they always want to inject this fear into us all the time. Like you get all these weird events happening, and everything seems to be sort of correlated, right? I remember very briefly when I was much younger, and I'm talking about September 11th. And at that time, I think I traveled with my mother. We were visiting relatives in Europe, and first of all, we couldn't really come back, and the flights were delayed and flights were moved. Um, and I know that uh, we sat there. I remember someone called us. I don't know who, but and told us the news that the um, twin towers, the planes were hitting twin towers, and there was a terror attack, right? Obviously, this kind of brings this awkward feeling of fear and confusion, and you have so many questions and why this is happening and so forth and so forth, and a little bit of emotion also, right, altogether. Um, and I remember when we were able to come back finally, well, actually at the airport, I remember seeing like military and police with assault rifles, and you just had this awkward feeling of that, obviously something is very wrong, and you could have tell that it was very serious, right? And looking past that entire event, um, next thing I remember was COVID-19, where again, um, people were afraid. There were people were dying, people were afraid, people had relatives that died, and um, I remember watching this tracker at work that um, would give you information where the virus is spreading, how is it spreading, in what state, how many people are infected roughly, or how many people died. That was the key thing. How many people died? And you just see these numbers jump up every single day. And again, a stroke. You felt like this fear that what happens if it's me? I don't want to die yet, and so forth and so forth. And it feels like this is obviously all uh, pre-generated, if this makes any sense. Like this constant fear mongering, this constant events that keep happening and um, make people feel afraid. But every single time some sort of event like that happens, we learned we learn a lot from it. For example, I think I what so there was this documentary by um, I forgot his name now, but there was this documentary on September 11th, and it was called Fahrenheit 11 or something like that. Fahrenheit 11, 9/11, I think it was called Fahrenheit 9/11. Um, and there were, I think Michael Moore. Yeah, Michael Moore is the guy that directed that movie, that made that movie. And there was a lot of information that they provided in that movie, and a lot of questions and a lot of answers altogether, and how all of that did not make much sense. What I'm saying is how it appears that this entire September 11 event was sort of an inside up, um, where they're starting to test, the metal. beams, whatever you call those. I think they say that they found a very massive evidence of termite, which is used for demolition. And basically, they interviewed different people, even some of the firemen. And again, we remember this whole event where a lot of people died after too, right? The cancer, they end up getting cancer. There was people got sick, and there was a lot of people that died. And
The terrorist attack on September 11, 2001, that killed nearly 3,000 people when the Twin Towers collapsed after hijacked planes crashed into them could be reviewed again by Congress. Republican Senator Ron Johnson, who heads up the investigations subcommittee, claims that the government is covering up the destruction of a building near the towers that house several CIA offices.
Who ordered the removal and then destruction of all that evidence? Totally contrary to any other firefighting investigation procedures.
The Wisconsin Republican lawmaker claims a separate explosion besides the ones which took place inside the Twin Towers happened inside a building just a few yards away, known as Building 7. A government investigation concluded that Building 7 collapsed from a prolonged fire that could not be put out because of water supply issues.
Well, start with Building 7. Again, I don't know that you can find structural engineers other than the ones that had the corrupt investigation inside NIST that would say that that thing didn't come down in any other way than a controlled demolition.
However, not everyone is buying that theory. Among them, New York Congressman Mike Lawler. He posted on X, quote, "Respectfully, Senator Johnson should stop peddling conspiracy theories about the worst terrorist attack in our nation's history, and one that forever altered the lives of so many of my fellow New Yorkers. This dishonors and disrespects the innocent lives lost, our brave first responders, and all family and survivors who still carry the pain of 9/11 each and every day."
Hopefully now, with this administration, I think President Trump should have some interest being a New Yorker himself. What actually happened in 9/11? What do we know? What is being covered up? My guess is there's an awful lot being covered up in terms of what the American government knows about 9/11.
Right now, it's still not clear what Senator Johnson's timetable would be for holding hearings. His office staff would only say, quote, "It depends on what information, documentation is obtained by our office."
No matter which event we talk about, whether it was September 11 or COVID, someone made a lot of money. There was a big talk about stock market or something, where people made a lot of money on September 11. There was the same thing, equipment, masks, that someone made a ton of money. Same thing with the market. So it's always something, and it's just strange, right? All of that stuff appears to be strange. Now we're finding out that they recently indicted a ex-advisor of Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci is nowhere to be found. You never even hear about this guy. He was very famous when COVID was around, and there was some dark stuff going on there. Obviously, I'm not gonna talk too much there regarding that because I don't really have a massive knowledge, but it felt like Anthony Fauci was on the helm of the entire dark plan of getting this virus out. Started blaming bats and or whatever somewhere in China, and it just the more they talked about it, the more did not make sense. And evidence came out of scientists reaching out to Dr. Fauci, that people that even they knew him, that certain data doesn't make sense, and he pushed them aside. They got silenced, and this is the time where a lot of things that people were talking about and that had scientific proof were silenced. You couldn't get a message out to the mass because we'll never get there. So they were controlling what information gets out. So we'll see what happens with this entire indictment. But again, I don't think Fauci will ever be persecuted. I don't think ever will anything will happen to him. And even this guy, um, Dr. David Morans, guy's 78. I mean, imagine if they lock him out. He's gonna be gone for the rest of his life. So um, yeah, and again, it's interesting how always you hear it on the news, everything is blown up. There's a big giant bubble, and all of a sudden, quiet. It's quiet, and they try to talk about other things to distract you from maybe doing a little bit of research of trying to get yourself a little bit more educated. Which brings me to the entire um, Russia and Ukraine war. This is from MSN.com, I believe. Zelensky presses Trump for clarity on May 9 ceasefire plan. So May 9, I think this is when Russia has its show of power or whatever. This is to celebrate the World War and defeating Hitler and Nazis. And it was the same thing last time. It was a ceasefire, although I think that ceasefire got broken by Ukraine. Whatever. I'm not going to get too deep into it. But it's interesting that for a couple months, everyone's talking about the Ukraine and Russia war, and all of a sudden, nada, nothing, flatline. No one cares. No one talks about it. No one says a single word. And yet this war keeps going on, and people are constantly dying. Every single day. Someone loses a father. Someone loses a husband. Someone loses a child, a son or daughter. Um, but yeah, it's now obviously we have this whole thing with Iran, and again, it's a big bubble, right? It just generates momentum, and we'll see where that goes. I'm a little bit concerned about this because I think there's some sort of a weird agenda going on. I mean, I don't know why all of a sudden everyone talks about it, or talks about the events there, but it gets sort of stopped, and no one talks about it at all when King Charles comes over to talk to Congress. And all of a sudden, everyone forgets the problem in Iran and the oil and, Strait of Hormuz. Um, I believe that there will be some pretty bad after effect from this. I can almost smell it because, so just imagine petrodollar, right? If you want to buy a barrel of oil, you pay in dollars. That's why it's called petrodollar. I think there's something in the works there when we're going to lose that. And if we do, man, we're heading into really dark times. I can't just think of uh, it's going to be worse than we think. I think it's going to be a depression. And again, I don't want to throw all this bomb scare, right? We just had enough of it, but I hope I'm right. I'm wrong. Sorry. But let's say, somehow, I think there was a talk that they were selling, barrels of oil into with a different currency or something. Just imagine if all of a sudden it's decided that it's going to be yen or, Chinese currency. U.S. is finished. We're done. We're absolutely done. But right now, what we see is massive problem with gas prices. Trump was bragging not long ago that prices are going to go down because we have oil from Venezuela now. We own oil. Anyone wants to buy oil. Well, then why do we see, four something a gallon? I think it was 4.50 I saw last time, a day ago, yesterday or so. And I just thought about this, like we just had, three and a change. Now it bounced up that high, all time high. Um, it's crazy because what we need to realize is when gas prices go, everything goes up. We're talking about airline fare. We're talking about um, food needs to be delivered, and if the price of gas is higher, then obviously um, trucks that are making deliveries, they, companies that own the logistics, they're gonna charge a lot more. Um, everything has a correlating effect. Maintenance of motor vehicles, costs go up. Everyone brings prices up, no matter what. Um, so again, um, it's always something. And one thing that we don't really always talk about, and I kind of wanted to share this about a minimum wage. And what's interesting is not every state follows this federal rule. Um, I went to um, buy a loaf of bread, I think yesterday, and it really woke me up. I think I was buying like this Arn Steve's Killer Bread, whatever it's called, uh, multi-grain, and it costed over $7, $7.40 in the change, you know, $7.40 plus, something like that. And I said to myself, that's crazy. That's a lot of money for a loaf of bread. Uh, and if we really know what the minimum wage is, this is a good breakdown. Um, just imagine, I don't know how much bread can cost in, let's say, Texas, but let's say if the minimum wage is $7.25, you're telling me that someone has to work 1 hour to get a loaf of bread. Um, I don't know how that is in other states. I don't know how much people, pay in other states. Maybe you guys can share with me. But it's absolutely devastating. The cost of food is going up on a scale we can't even react to. Um, it's interesting how I got this from Statista, but it's interesting how it says smaller employers can pay less. Like let's say New York City, $16. Um, you know, the federal minimum wage is $7.25, but applies for qualifying employees in states. And again, not every state follows that. So, yeah, I'm a little bit concerned. I hope that everything bounces back. Um, Obviously, I'm getting myself ready for another bump scare. Something is happening. I don't know what it is, but um, I hope everyone will be okay. I hope everyone's safe. Uh, I want to thank you very much for watching this video. I would like you to comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Um, it would definitely help me out to grow my channel. I think for the future, um, I would like to make this my full-time thing. And if that really happens and takes off, then I will definitely have people come over and have some interesting conversations that I can entertain you guys. For now, stay strong. Thank you so much, and God bless you.